we live in a world again where there's so much exposure and we're so vulnerable, and there's so much openness and sharing of our beliefs and our perspectives, right? It started off in the days, I remember years back, there was the radio, right? Where for the first time, it was like public broadcast where people sharing their beliefs, their perspectives. I mean, before that, everyone lived in their own homes and they had their certain beliefs that came from their families or and their schools and their cultures. And then it became much more of this like broad expansion of like, wow, this is my beliefs and I'm going to share it, and someone is going to have a different belief and they're going to share it. Then we went on to TVs, which expanded that. Then we have the internet and social media where we're all openly sharing our beliefs and our perspectives and our opinions. And what could happen with that is that those differences in many ways could divide us because we feel like, okay, I'm on this side of the team. I'm following this person who has this type of belief, but at the same time, there are other people commenting who have different beliefs. And a lot of that could potentially divide us. But again, and this is something that the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke very much about, was that every technology came into the world that was part of, this whole industrial revolution, which was the time where, at the same time where the Baal Shem Tov brought Hasidus down into the world. And it's not a coincidence that the Industrial Revolution came at that same time, because the advent of technology really, and this ability to share and this ability to share a consciousness and an opinion and a belief with the world is very much a part of redemption. And again, even though, yes, we all have our different opinions and our different beliefs, and they could potentially divide us, again, if that was used as a vehicle to bring redemption, which is unity and love and light into the world, then obviously, how do we come to hearing other people's beliefs, other people's perspectives, and other people's opinions, and use that and go deeply within ourselves and use that to bring more love into the world, right? To connect us, to bring us closer instead of to divide us. So that's one point. Now, the other point I was thinking so much about was that, just again, a question mark, and we'll see, we'll get there, just to put that on the side. That again, God put us into this world on a journey to make a dwelling place for him in the lower worlds, what's called the Dira B'Tachtonim. That was God's desire when he created the world, was that we should make a dwelling place for him in the lower worlds. And that means that each and every one of us come into the world with unique perspectives and beliefs and cultures and family upbringings and gifts and talents and strengths and obstacles and all sorts of big packages, in order that we should live authentically connected to ourselves, authentically expressing ourselves, authentically connected to our truth and our beliefs. And every single one of us is a very important part of bringing godliness down into the world and making a dwelling place for God in the lower world. And we can do that only when we're deeply connected to ourselves. And so it's very important to share our beliefs and share our perspectives and to be open and to be vulnerable and to share our voice. Our voice is there's a lot of redemption and sharing an inner personal healing and redemption when we share that perspective, even though maybe someone else is not going to believe our perspective, and it's very vulnerable, and we can take, again, so I think, again, if we go a little bit deeper here, what we're asking ourselves is, how can we take that authentic connection and belief and an authentic voice that we have about ourselves, which is so vastly different from another person, and use that to have deep connection and respect and love and unity, when, again, we're all so vastly different. So again, how can our differences really be a channel for us to love and connect instead of really to divide and to separate us? But the question that I want to really work through is, how do we actually get there, and what tools does Kabbalah and Hasidus give us in order to get to that place. Okay? That's really where I want to kind of like go with this tonight. Yeah. So again, our soul comes down into this world from the highest of loftiest of planes, from God's ultimate oneness and essence. And these are things we've spoken about a lot over the past year of classes, where it comes from a place of oneness, what's called God's atzmos, his essence, and our soul comes down into this world, right, through this what's called the Seder Hishtalshalos. It goes down through this rung of 4 different spiritual worlds, which each have these 10 divine attributes into it. Right, and we come down into a physical body, into what's called the world of Asiya, the world of action, this physical world, of the world of Malchut. And right at birth, right away, we experience that separation of our soul being disconnected from its source. And the biggest all of our fears and all of our angst and all of our feeling of lack all come really from that we're separate from God. Right away, the soul comes down and is separate from this highest lofty of spiritual worlds. We're separate from our true self, because again, we come down into the world and right away, the animal soul, the ego consciousness comes online. We're separate from our essence. We're separate from others. We're separate from nature, right? We feel this total disconnect. Like there's me and there's the trees and there's this table and really the class you had on Sunday, which was so beautiful. I've been starting to say Perek Shira also. We got like a beautiful booklet in our home. It has beautiful pictures of animals. And it's just the deepest truth, like the animals, the world, we're one. We are all one and one with everything in the world. But again, we come down into a physical body, into a world of concealment, and so we don't see that. That's not our experience. But we have to understand that the biggest angst and all of our fears and all of our pain that we really are experiencing is that pain of disconnection, the pain of the ego consciousness, and the anguish that we feel, that angst of that lack of vitality and vibrancy when we're living from a place of animal soul of ego consciousness. So our way back really is to climb the ladder back up. And everyone who's here is doing that, is not staying just in ego, animal soul consciousness. It's really dedicating their life through learning to climb the ladder back up. And climbing that ladder back up, I want to say, really is our journey back to love. That's how I see it. That God is just unconditional love. God is the source of love. And in us, we have this wellspring of love, our divine soul. And the journey back up is a journey back to love, as I see it. And again, the question that we're really asking at the core, I think of what Michelle was asking, and really at the core is, how can we love when there are so many apparent differences, right? So many apparent different perspectives and differences. And that really goes into what it speaks about. This is really, I would say, the core, especially of Chabad Hasidus, is the idea of Ahavas Yisrael, of loving another person as we love ourselves. And how is it really possible to love another person as we really love ourselves, right? How is that actually a possible thing? How is it possible to do that? So first of all, it's the first thing I think that we have to understand, and I think this is something I really want to take some time to really break through and to really understand, is what is the programming of the animal soul, the ego consciousness? What is that consciousness? What is its voice? What is the perspective that it has on this world? Because I think once we understand really more about the ego consciousness a little bit, we can actually really ground ourselves more in our true self, our highest self. So the ego really is all about self-preservation and making myself feel good and right about myself and validating my sense of self in this world. So what does that ego do? The ego lives in comparison. If your opinion or your perspective, if I say it's wrong, right? You're blue and I'm red. You believe in this and I believe in that. You're pro this and I'm pro that, right? If your perspective is wrong, then my perspective is right. And then I have a sense of self. There's a self, there's a me. I'm validated. My existence is validated in the world. And the ego lives also on hierarchies and judgments, right? All sorts of hierarchies of better, worse, you're worse, you're right, you're wrong, right? And it comes up with all sorts of defense mechanisms to actually to defend itself, to make itself feel safe and validated and right in this world. And I want to say one of the deepest, I don't know, awarenesses or growth for me, particularly this year, has been, and it actually came through. I was actually in this beautiful healing, it was like an evening of like a circle that they had of like people from all over Israel that came together in this beautiful farm. And it was just a beautiful gathering of people from all sorts, walks of life. And after this evening, I had this very, very deep awareness about my ego personally. And I'm going to share it because I think it's something we could all so much relate to, is that so much about ourselves, we define ourselves based on our roles in life, right? I'm a wife, I'm a mother, a teacher, a student, I have this and this and this degree. And we can even define ourselves by our traumas. Like, I am my trauma. I am this story that I've been living with since I've been a child, and I'm that. And I felt like the deepest healing of the ego and shedding of the ego was for me personally, was this deep awareness that we're not our external roles. We're not our external ways of defining ourselves, our identities, that we're so much deeper than that.